Every day you cling to things that weigh you down, old fears, broken relationships, and even that endless pursuit of more. It's exhausting, isn't it? Busy Buddha knows this all too well and offers a way out. Let go. But letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means freeing yourself from the chains of control and attachment that cause stress and sorrow. Imagine living lighter, without the fear of loss holding you back. In this episode, Busy Buddha will teach you how to release what no longer serves you and find joy in the freedom of simply being. Chapter 1. The Roots of Attachment. On a crowded street filled with rushing people, Busy Buddha stood still, watching the chaos unfold. Everyone seemed to be chasing something: a bus, a dream, or maybe a fleeting moment of happiness. He smiled gently and whispered,
Do they know what they're holding on to?
"Attachment begins with the mind's desire to cling. You might hold tightly to a favorite toy, a friend, or the idea of always winning. But what happens when that toy breaks, or the friend moves away? Suddenly, pain follows. Busy Buddha teaches that this pain isn't from losing something. It comes from your mind not wanting to let it go."
Why do we cling?
A little boy asked Buddha as he walked by. He was clutching a balloon, his knuckles white with fear that it might fly away. Buddha knelt beside him and replied,
Because we believe it makes us whole. But what if letting go makes space for something even better?
He gently loosened the boy's grip, and the balloon floated up. At first, the boy's eyes widened with sadness, but soon he laughed as he watched it dance in the sky. Attachments are like invisible strings tying us to things, people, and ideas. They pull us back when we want to move forward. Busy Buddha calls these
The roots of suffering.
He explains that wanting to hold on to what's temporary, like a new gadget or being liked by everyone, keeps us trapped in a cycle of disappointment. To start untangling these strings, Buddha suggests asking yourself one question.
Why do I need this so badly?
Often, the answer isn't about the object or person, it's about the comfort they give.
But comfort can come from within.
He says with a knowing smile. As Busy Buddha continued his journey through the city, people began to notice his calm amidst the frenzy. Some followed, curious to learn more. In the chapters ahead, Buddha will guide them and you on a path to uncover freedom and happiness by understanding and loosening these roots of attachment. Remember, it's not about having nothing. It's about nothing having you. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Control. The subway was alive with noise. Footsteps pounding, train doors hissing, and announcements crackling overhead. Amid the chaos stood Busy Buddha, his tiny frame glowing with calm. Around him, commuters scrambled to catch their trains, clutching bags, phones, and the illusion of control. A hurried man bumped into Buddha, muttering an apology without looking back. Buddha chuckled softly.
People run so fast.
He mused.
But can they truly control where life takes them?
The truth is, we spend much of our time trying to hold on to things that are always changing. We plan every detail, hoping that careful control will bring us happiness. But life often has other ideas. A sudden rainstorm, a lost game, or a delayed train. These moments can make us feel frustrated or helpless. A young girl sitting nearby looked up at Buddha and sighed.
I hate waiting.
She grumbled, staring at her phone. Buddha sat beside her, his voice warm and gentle.
Do you know the secret about waiting?
He asked. She shook her head, curious.
It's a chance to see things differently.
Buddha said, pointing to the swirling leaves outside the station.
We can't control the train, but we can choose what to focus on while we wait.
This is the essence of impermanence, anicca, as Buddha calls it. Everything is always changing, like the passing of seasons or the movement of clouds. Trying to control what is temporary only leads to stress.
Instead of fighting impermanence, why not flow with it?
Buddha suggested. He stood up, stretching his small arms as if embracing the entire bustling platform.
Every delay, every change is a chance to practice letting go.
The girl smiled faintly, her shoulders relaxing. Around them, the station's noise seemed to soften. As Buddha hopped onto the train, he waved to her and said,
Remember, control is not about holding on tighter. It's about knowing when to let go.
This simple truth became the heart of Buddha's lesson. Control is an illusion, but acceptance is powerful. As the journey continues, Buddha will reveal how to embrace uncertainty and find peace in life's ever-changing rhythm. The train pulled away, carrying busy Buddha and his timeless wisdom to the next stop. Chapter 3: Emotional Attachments and Their Grip. In a bustling city park, laughter and shouts filled the air. Parents hurried after their children, joggers zipped by, and couples argued softly beneath shaded trees. On a quiet bench sat busy Buddha, a tiny figure of peace in the midst of the commotion. He held a glowing heart-shaped object, its warm light radiating calm. A woman nearby wiped tears from her cheeks as she watched her son run toward the swings. Buddha noticed her sadness and gently approached.
Why do you cry?
He asked, his voice like a soft breeze. She hesitated, then said,
I fear losing him. I love him so much that I can't stop worrying.
Buddha nodded knowingly.
Love is beautiful,
He said,
but when it clings too tightly, it becomes a cage, for you and for him.
emotional attachments often begin with love and care, but they can grow into fear. You might cling to a friend, a parent, or even an idea of how someone should behave. When they change or pull away, it feels like a piece of you breaks. This is the grip of attachment. It binds your happiness to something outside of yourself. Buddha placed his glowing heart in her hands.
Love is not about holding on.
He explained.
It's about letting others fly while trusting they'll come back if they choose to.
The woman stared at the light in her hands, feeling her heart lighten. Buddha continued,
True love allows freedom. Imagine holding a butterfly. If you grip it too tightly, it cannot move. But when you open your hand, it might stay willingly.
As the sun began to set, Buddha sat back on his bench, watching the park quiet down. People rushed by, still wrapped in their own worlds, but those who noticed him seemed to pause, as if his calmness rippled out to them. Emotional attachments are natural, but can become chains when fear creeps in. In the coming chapters, Buddha will teach how to transform attachment into compassionate connection, free of control, full of trust. With a soft smile, Buddha closed his eyes, letting the sounds of the park blend into stillness. The journey toward balance had just begun. Chapter 4: Letting Go of Material Attachments. In a small, cluttered apartment, the shelves sagged under the weight of books, gadgets, and keepsakes. A mountain of clothes spilled from an overstuffed wardrobe, and the faint hum of television filled the room. Sitting calmly in the center of the chaos was busy Buddha, glowing softly like a single star in a cloudy sky. A young man hurried into the room, tripping over a pile of shoes. Frustration flashed across his face as he muttered.
I don't have enough space for all this stuff.
Buddha looked up and smiled.
What do you really need?
He asked gently. The man paused, confused.
I need it all.
He replied.
Every book, every gadget. They make me happy.
Buddha tilted his head thoughtfully.
Do they? Or do they make you feel heavy?
Material attachments can feel comforting at first, like a warm blanket. But over time, they become burdens. You might think that the newest toy or piece of tech will make you feel complete. But these things often create more clutter, physically and emotionally. Buddha stood and picked up a dusty trinket from the shelf.
This once brought joy.
He said,
but now it gathers dust. Why hold on to what no longer serves you?
The young man watched as Buddha gently placed the trinket in a box marked,
Donate. By letting go, you make room.
Buddha explained.
Not just for new things, but for peace.
Buddha guided the man through a simple exercise. Take one item, ask if it brings true joy, and if not, let it go. Slowly, the room began to breathe again. The piles grew smaller, and the man's face softened with each decision.
Doesn't it feel lighter?
Buddha asked, holding a glowing orb symbolizing clarity. The man nodded.
It's like I can see clearly for the first time.
As the apartment transformed, so did the young man's heart. Material attachments often bind us, but releasing them can free our minds and spirits. Buddha's journey continued, teaching others that less isn't emptiness. It's space for what truly matters. And as the glow of his wisdom spread, the world felt a little lighter. Chapter 5. Ego and Identity Attachments. In the heart of the city, the square buzzed with life. People hurried past massive advertisements, their glowing screens promising happiness through beauty, status, and success. Giant mirrors adorned the plaza, and passers-by stopped to adjust their clothes, fix their hair, or snap selfies. Amid the commotion, busy Buddha stood still, holding a small, glowing mirror. Unlike the towering ones, his mirror didn't show the surface. Instead, it reflected something deeper, a warm inner light. A young woman paused, staring at her reflection in one of the mirrors.
I don't look good enough.
She whispered, adjusting her jacket. Buddha approached and held up his glowing mirror.
Try this,
he said softly. She gazed into it, expecting to see her face, but instead, she saw her laughter, her kindness, and the moments she helped others. Tears filled her eyes.
Is this me?
Buddha smiled.
It's who you are beyond appearances.
Attachments to ego and identity are like wearing masks. You might believe you're only valuable if you're perfect, popular, or always winning. But these masks can become heavy, hiding your true self.
Who would you be without these labels?
Buddha asked the woman.
More than what you see? More than what they say?
In this world, people often tie their worth to how others perceive them. They chase likes on social media, aim for titles at work, or strive to fit in. However, ego-based attachments can lead to endless comparison and dissatisfaction. Buddha pointed to the giant mirrors. He said,
These only show the outside, but your real light shines from within.
letting go of ego doesn't mean losing yourself. It means freeing yourself. Buddha suggested a practice. Pause each day and ask, who am I without my achievements or appearance? The young woman walked away, her reflection no longer a concern. She felt lighter, as though a weight had lifted. As the sun set over the bustling square, Buddha's glow remained steady, reminding all who pass that identity is not something to cling to. It's something to discover beyond the noise of the world. The journey to peace continues as Buddha helps others uncover their true selves, one step at a time. Chapter 6. Navigating Grief and Loss. The park was quiet as dusk settled in, golden light filtering through the trees. A gentle breeze carried the rustle of falling leaves, and a woman sat alone on a bench, clutching a framed photograph. Her eyes were distant, lost in memories. Nearby, busy Buddha sat cross-legged, holding a glowing lotus flower. Noticing her sorrow, he approached, his presence gentle and unintrusive.
You hold something precious.
He said softly. She looked up, startled, but curious.
It's my husband.
She replied, her voice trembling.
I lost him. How do I go on without him?
Buddha nodded, his small face filled with understanding.
Loss is heavy,
He said,
but it's also a bridge. leading us from what was to what can be.
Grief often feels like a storm, overwhelming and endless. It clings to the heart, making you wish for what cannot return. But Buddha taught that even the heaviest sorrow can transform.
When you grieve,
He explained,
it means you love deeply. That love doesn't disappear, it becomes part of you.
He placed the glowing lotus in her hands.
This flower grows in muddy waters,
He said,
yet it blossoms. Grief is the mud, and from it, gratitude can bloom.
The woman stared at the flower, feeling its warmth.
Gratitude?
She asked, confused.
Yes,
Buddha replied,
for the moments you shared, for the love you knew. Instead of holding on to what you've lost, hold on to the beauty it brought to your life.
grief, he continued, doesn't mean forgetting or moving on. It means carrying the essence of those you've lost in a way that inspires you. Buddha encouraged her to sit quietly each day, remembering one thing she was grateful for about her husband.
Start small.
He said,
Even a single memory can light the way forward.
as the first stars appeared in the sky, the woman's tears softened. She smiled faintly, holding the lotus close. Buddha's words stayed with her.
Loss is not the end. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one where their light can guide you, not weigh you down.
The journey continues as Buddha teaches others to transform pain into peace, one heart at a time. Chapter 7. Building a Life of Freedom. The lake was perfectly still as the first rays of sunlight kissed its surface. Busy Buddha sat cross-legged on a small wooden platform floating at the center, holding a glowing lantern that seemed to pulse with life. Beyond the lake, the distant hum of a waking city could be heard. But here, there was only peace. A man paddled toward Buddha in a small boat, his expression full of curiosity.
How do you always look so free?
He asked, his voice breaking the morning silence.
I carry so much, worries, fears, expectations. I don't know how to let go.
Buddha smiled, his glow reflecting softly on the water.
Freedom doesn't mean having nothing. It means not being owned by anything.
Life's freedom begins within. It's not about escaping responsibilities or running from challenges. Instead, it's about shifting your focus to what truly matters. Buddha explained,
Your mind is like this lake. When stirred by fear or desire, it becomes cloudy. But when you let go, it clears, reflecting the world as it is.
the man frowned.
But what if the world is harsh? How can I feel free in the middle of chaos?
Buddha raised the lantern.
Find your light.
He replied.
Your peace is not in the world, it's in you.
He shared a practice. Spend a few moments each morning sitting still, like the lake at sunrise. Focus on your breath and ask yourself,
What am I holding on to that I no longer need?
let the answer come, then release it. Over time, this simple act creates space for freedom. As the boat drifted closer, the man noticed how light Buddha seemed, as if he floated not just on water, but in life itself.
Doesn't anything tie you down?
Buddha chuckled.
I feel the same fears and joys as you. The difference is, I see them, but I don't cling to them.
As the sun rose higher, the man smiled, his burdens feeling just a little lighter. He paddled back toward the shore, carrying Buddha's lantern's glow in his heart. Freedom isn't a destination. It's a way of living, a daily choice to let go and simply be. Standing on the hilltop, busy Buddha looked out at the endless horizon, the golden sunset wrapping the world in its warmth.
Letting go
He whispered,
isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of truly living.
life is filled with attachments that weigh you down. Fears, possessions, expectations. But each step you take to release them brings clarity and lightness. It's not about losing. It's about gaining the freedom to embrace the present. As the path stretches before you, remember Buddha's gentle guidance. Trust yourself, find joy in simplicity, and let your inner light lead the way.